Hello again from Renton. Seahawks training camp day 5 in the books after a day off. And I'll just say right off the top, Dave, that I think Germain Ifedi, the rookie top pick, has single-handedly changed the tone of this training camp to, well, I'd like to say maybe more contention to go with Pete Carroll's competition. The rookie right guard is just taking it to everybody he goes against, whether it's in pass rush drills, team drills. Pro Bowl Michael Bennett, he incensed Bennett so much again today that Bennett ended up, Pete Carroll throwing Bennett out of the end of team drills to get him in the cooling bin on the sidelines, just get him out of here because he was so upset. That's about 4 days in a row, 4 practices in a row that Ifedi has done that. And then afterwards he talked to us for the first time and he didn't apologize for anything. He said, and if you're a nice guy out here, you're not going to last. And that was the reputation he had coming out of Texas A&M, was to a mean streak. And I think the Seahawks offensive line, especially that right guard position, as tough and as mean as J.R. Sweezy could be, just got a lot bigger and meaner with Germain Ifedi.
You know, I thought you were going to lead in. We're coming to you live from the UFC Octagon. We've got some chants going over.
Yeah, those are
because it's what it's like. These guys really need to play a game. They're already tired and bored with training camp. Ifedi is a part of it. Jaron Reed is another guy who has stood up, playing like he's not going to take anything from any of the veterans. And as you say, the quote from Ifedi was, "You can't be a nice guy on the field, or you won't be on the field long." These guys are already thinking about their job, the length of their career, their livelihood. And I think that's the way to go about it. There's no, oh, this guy's a Pro Bowl player against me. It's, I'm going to beat the man who's in front of me.
Any fans who are wondering why the Seahawks take a right guard with the #1 pick, I think the first 5 days of training camp has answered that.
And he may not be a right guard, too. I'll tell you, I think he has 36-inch arms, which is great for elite tackles in the NFL. And I think that kind of range and reach that he has might be being wasted at guard. This might be sort of an intermediate step to get over into that right tackle next year.
Jamarcus Webb, the current right tackle, only on a 2-year contract, so that could be a shorter term deal than even Jamarcus Webb thought. 85-inch vertical wingspan, or horizontal wingspan for Germain Ifedi. I mean, that's as tall as Shaquille O'Neal is. He's a big man and he's got a mean streak, and that's exactly what this offensive line needs. Harold Simon's turn today to be the starting right cornerback, although that doesn't mean necessarily anything other than that competition continues. Deshaun Shedd was doing it for the few days before this. They still want Jeremy Lane as the nickelback on defense, it looks like. Cassius Marsh got some snaps both at outside linebacker and defensive end. Dave, where do you think all that's going to shake out?
Boy, it's hard to tell. Pete is not turning over his hand here either. He's playing it really close to his vest. I think there's no reason to hurry this up. And he has gone, 4 or 5 deep, even beyond the 3 guys that we always mention at that same position. They're all really hustlers, and I think Cassius Marsh has such a high revving motor, and he is so long. He's a little bit unique to be playing that position, and Pete loves guys who are unique, who create difficult matchups.
Dave noticed today, mentioning to me, that once Marsh gets stopped on his initial pass rush, he doesn't really get too much further against offensive linemen. That's something he wasn't used to at UCLA.
He isn't strong enough to, once they get their hands on him, but they're generally not quick enough to grab him because he's got a terrific swim move, a rip move. He can spin, he can come inside out. He's got a lot of things to offer at that position.
You might be wondering why every day we keep talking about the linemen, but as Dave said the other day, it's by far the most competitive part of this camp and by far the most entertaining to watch.
When you had to put Michael Bennett in a timeout was basically, he was acting up. Now, Michael, go sit in the corner now until you can come back out and play nice.
That's exactly what happened. Injuries starting to pile up a little bit, but August 4th, they're all considered minor, at least to the veterans. Doug Baldwin, I mentioned the other day on this video, and some fans said to me, what do you mean there was something more to that? It wasn't just a veteran day off for him on Tuesday. He actually has a calf injury. Someone stepped on him in practice on Monday, so he's missed his 2nd consecutive day of practice today. Carroll said that's not a big deal either. He'll be fine. Cam Chancellor, a groin injury again. He'll be fine. Zach Brooks, though, the rookie running back from Clemson, 7th-round pick, is a hamstring injury that sounds like more than a few days. He'll be out, which joins C.J. Prosise, who's also out for another week or so with his own hamstring. So the running backs are thin to the point that Tanela Tupou from UW, who had been a defensive tackle for the Huskies, a fullback in minicamp for the Seahawks, back at defensive lineman to start this training camp, is back at fullback, and Kristen Michael and Alex Collins, the rookie round fifth-round pick from Arkansas,
and
getting a lot of time.
And a serious injury today, we can assume. Brandon Cottom, who's been playing fullback / running back, who is the most resembles a typical fullback, went down, and it sounds like an Achilles, and Pete said it sounded like a real injury, and to the point where Michael Robinson, one of our favorite guys, was here working his TV gig, and I said, oh, another fullback goes down, and I said, are you ready to come back? And he said, you're the 5th or 6th guy who's asked. I said, oh, really? Anybody important? He said, well, the general manager. I said, was he kidding? He goes, I think so, but I'm not quite sure.
Cottom was one of 2 Seahawks to get carted off in a 5-minute span. The other one was backup tight end Ronnie Shields. It also looked like a leg injury. Mike Morgan was the first team outside linebacker, strong side linebacker. That competition continuing with Eric Pinkins and Cassius Marsh. You ask how, okay, Simon started, how'd he do today? Well, the very first play of the red zone scrimmage, he mauled Jermaine Kearse in the corner of the end zone on a fade route for a very easy pass interference call. Seahawks fans very reminiscent of some of Thorold Simon's earlier struggles with the penalty situation. That is his big knock, besides staying on the field, is not having penalties.
But when he's running and he's playing and he's jumping, he's as athletic as anybody they've ever had play cornerback.